That's it.
All right, give it a couple seconds, make sure he's on.
Yeah, after you call it, then we'll let people know again.
Yep. Calling to order the regular meeting of the Wheeling Plan Commission for Wednesday, April 12th, 2023. Please stand for the pledge.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Secretary, please call the roll.
Commissioner Casper is absent with previous notice. Commissioner Heiken?
Here.
Commissioner Berkey?
Here.
Commissioner Sprague is here. Commissioner Riles?
Here.
Commissioner Meyer?
Here.
Chairman Johnson?
Here.
Gonna give people one more chance to sign up.
Ms. Nyes, any changes to the agenda this evening?
No changes.
All right, did you want to make another announcement?
Yep. If anyone's here for the gas and wash concept review, and you would like to speak on the agenda item, the only time you can speak is during the citizens' concerns and comments, which is going to be the very first item on the agenda, because the gas and wash concept review is not a public hearing. This is a concept review that happens at the very, very beginning before they even submit any formal documents. So there will be, if they do move forward and after this concept review, they do move forward, then they would decide to do full documents and they would submit them to the village. At that time, there would be a public hearing and the people would be notified, and then people would speak at the time that the agenda item is brought up. But today, when the agenda item is brought up, it's just gonna be them doing their presentation and the plan commissioners giving some feedback and questions. So the only time to talk about the gas and wash for the public is going to be right at the beginning at citizens' concerns and comments. So if you would like to speak at that time, please sign up on the form now, right before we collect it. So I just want that to be clear.
And if you want to speak on the public hearing regarding the dispensary, there's a separate sign-up sheet for that, which would happen while we review that one. So I guess there are no other takers.
Okay.
But you put the topic down, so that counts. Okay, so citizens' concerns and comments. Mr. Kendall, come on up. State your name and address for the record.
Yeah, my name is Scott Kendall, 1400 Salvington, Wheeling. I've lived in Wheeling for 63 years. I own the Clark Station at the corner of Hintz and Old Buffalo Grove Road. I think this is a fantastic project. I've been trying to sell my business for 4 years now. I had it sold, and Gas and Wash came along. The person I was going to sell it to could turn it into a mini mart. Okay, so if that happened, the property behind there would sit vacant for 30 years, probably, just like Kmart. Nobody would want to buy it. At that point, it becomes unsellable. So anyway, I think this project would be a huge windfall for the village of Wheeling. All the taxes, the back taxes that the neighboring property owner is $800,000 behind in his taxes, all that'll get paid. So I think it's a great idea. They put up a first-class operation. They every effort to make a quiet car wash. All the motors are inside. You don't hear it, and it's not going to be even close to how busy that location was when Garden Fresh was there. So I'm for it. So.
All right, thank you. Should we give him one more chance? All right. So moving on, we have no consent items tonight. So our first item for review is docket number SCBA 23-02. Request for appearance approval for a monument sign for Selfreliance Credit Union at 50 West Dundee Road. Ms. Nyes.
Thank you. This appearance review is for this monument sign shown on the screen here. Yep. So this will have 2 cabinets. The bottom cabinet will be a electronic message center, and we staff have recommended 4 conditions associated with this ground sign. Do you want me to read those now?
Sure.
Okay. So, and I might have a little explanation with the last 2. So number 1 is the location and orientation of the monument ground sign shall be as identified on the site plan prepared by Leader Architects dated 4/2/2021, which the sign shall be installed perpendicular to the property line Dundee Road. So there were 2 different plans and they showed it differently. So we're assuming it's being installed perpendicular to Dundee Road.
Correct.
Okay. Number 2, the landscaping at the base of the ground sign as identified on the landscape plan prepared by Landmark sign dated 4/5/2023 shall be installed no later than October 15th, 2023. Number 3, the electronic message center shall comply with section 21(3)(b)(2)(a)(d) of the Village Code. A side note, that's the section that has all the regulations for the electronic message center. Like how often it can flash, how often, what you can have on there, what you can't have on there. And number 4, the face material of the sign base shall be changed to match the brick of the building. The petitioner shall work with staff to find a suitable material during permit review. So I just want to clarify this, and that you can then include this in your, and when you give your presentation. So there was just confusion with staff. I guess we couldn't remember, was it going to be this white front?
Right.
Okay, not this darker one?
No.
Okay, and then is the brick going to,
It's going to be more white.
it'll match this?
Correct.
Okay,
Really hard to find a white
It-
brick,
it's-
so
yeah.
the lightest limestone we
It's
can
like,
find.
yeah, the light is limestone, so it could be like slightly white, slightly cream.
okay. And the side of the building is still going to be the red brick, so we just wanted to point that out for the Plan Commission. The front, like this picture shown, will be the white. The side is still going to be the red brick, I believe.
I think
You're going around the corner a little bit.
3 or 4 feet
Oh, right, you'll
around
get
the
a little
corner,
bit of the
it'll
white.
wrap around.
But you probably won't even see that.
Right.
You shouldn't be able to see it.
Yeah, okay, so we just wanted to bring that, yeah, so you won't even see it. Okay, so that's all from staff.
All right. So please state your names and business addresses and tell us about your project.
Peter Olnicki, Chief Operating Officer for the credit union. We're approximately about a month away from finishing, hopefully sooner. 90% of the inside has already been completed. The roof is being torn off, and it's currently, as soon as the roof is done, they're going to apply the siding to the front. And then it's up to Landmark Signs for the sign to come in. But for the most part, we're about somewhere 15 to 45 days from opening.
Very good. Anything you want to add about the sign?
Yeah, so I'm Jake Slager with Landmark Sign, the project manager for this job. And I do have an updated rendering, because I know the one that we sent you looks like it was a corrupted file, so it doesn't really show well up on the top corner that you have. I do have updated proofs of that for like day and night visions, so you guys, if I can get that to you, if you want it, just to show the perpendicular position of the sign to the road. And besides
that's
that,
fine.
that's about it.
We just wanted to verify that.
Yep.
All right. Any questions from the commission down to my left on this?
Just one small question, and that's in the front facade of the building, just what shrubbery do you have? planned? I saw it relative to the sign,
I
but in
think
the,
it's like, not, I mean, actually right in front of the building.
yeah, and right in front of the
I
building.
think they're called elderberry bushes.
Okay,
Yeah, that was part of the site plan review,
I'm
that
not
there were going to be some
100% sure.
shrubs.
There's
Okay.
existing shrubbery there, we just have to have it trimmed and
okay,
maybe one or two replaced, so that's part of the landscaping. Landscaping should be done relatively shortly.
okay. That's all I have. Thank you.
Commissioner Sprague.
Thank you. Good evening. I just wanted to confirm that you're okay with 4 conditions that were read?
Oh, yes.
Okay, all right, that's all I have.
Commissioner Riles, anything?
No questions, thank you.
And down to my right, anything?
No questions, thank you.
All right. The only comment I had on this was, I'm okay with the kind of stacked stone that you showed, since you're covering up most of the brick that's on the building. So I'm okay with taking that condition out if the commission is okay with that. Commissioner Heiken,
I'm good with that.
Commissioner Berkey,
I'm fine with that, thanks.
Commissioner Meyer,
I support.
and Commissioner Riles,
I concur.
and Commissioner Sprague. Okay.
No problems.
So we can strike number 4. All right. Any other questions from anyone? If not, I would entertain a motion to approve SCBA 23-02.
So moved.
Second,
Who's the motion?
Heiken.
Commissioner Heiken?
Yes.
Commissioner Berkey?
Yes.
Commissioner Sprague is a yes. Commissioner Riles?
Yes.
Commissioner Meyer?
yes.
Chairman Johnson?
Yes.
Okay, so we can talk tomorrow. It's approved, and then we just...
Yeah, just work with staff on what you
Perfect.
want to do with that
All right.
brickwork.
Thank you very much. Have a good one.
All right, next up is SCBA 23-03. Request for appearance approval for a monument sign again for AETC at 265 Alice Street. Ms. Nines?
Okay, so we have another monument sign for AETC. I took this picture a long time ago, before construction started. So we just had 2 recommended conditions for this sign, which is going to be along Alice Street. And they do have a new landscaping plan proposed. So for all of our signs, we require that the address be located either on the base or on the side of the sign. And then we always throw in that landscaping at the base of the ground sign as identified on the site details plan prepared by Level Enterprise LLC, last revised 4/3/2023, shall be installed no later than October 15th, 2023.
And I take it you're the petitioner, so please state your name and business address.
Yeah, Danny Konovalchik is business address 265 Ellis Street.
All right, and anything you want to add to
No?
what we have? All right. Again, any questions to my left? Commissioner Sprague.
Thank you. Good evening.
Good evening.
I noticed that it says annuals and perennials. Are you going to have a landscape outfit taking care of that every year for the annuals?
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
Thank you. That's all I have.
And to my right? Nothing?
No questions.
Very good. And I had nothing on this one. You're okay with the 2 conditions about the, putting the address on there?
Yes, yes,
All right.
both sides.
All right, then I would entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second. Meyer and Berkey?
Yep.
Commissioner Meyer?
Yes.
Commissioner Berkey?
Yes.
Commissioner Heiken?
Yes.
Commissioner Sprague is a yes. Commissioner Riles?
Yes.
Chairman Johnson?
Yes. All
Okay,
right.
so we can talk tomorrow about getting
Okay,
approval.
thank you.
And next up, we have docket PC 23-02, request for building appearance approval for modifications to the exterior of the building for Warespace at 301 West Hintz Road. Ms. Nyes?
What did I want to say? Sorry, working two computers, I got a little kerfuffle. So I think we have someone here, but just real quick, what do I want to say? Oh, so this is just an building appearance review, no site plan, no other variances or anything, just building appearance review, because they're taking this building that they've cleaned up the site very nicely. It has metal and brick, as you can see from these pictures, and they're going to be painting it a different color scheme. Well, you guys don't have your monitors, but you could flip through the packet to see the different elevations, and then there's two renderings, and I believe he has a board as well if someone needs to see it up close.
Here. Just to look at it, leaving everything, just painting the existing superstructure.
All right. Commissioner Meyer?
I don't have any questions. I would just observe that that's a dramatic improvement from the current state.
Yes. Commissioner Riles?
No questions, but it is very detailed and looks very good, so that's all I have.
Commissioner Sprague?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good evening.
Good evening.
I like the way it looks. It's a good color scheme. What I want to know is, are you guys aware of the prep work and what needs to be done before you do any of the painting?
Yes.
Okay.
We don't want to be back in a year with paint peeling because
Yeah.
they didn't use the right specs and other things.
Are you going to work with Sherwin-Williams on what's needed?
We actually created these colors with Sherwin-Williams.
Right.
They're now nationally in their system. So that way, we're a new company and we want our brand colors to be accurate from here to Dallas to Georgia, all over the country. So yes, we've been working closely with them to build these colors out and then the specs for different materials.
And then the aluminum siding will require a different primer than the brick
Correct. We'll be using
primer.
a different primer and also the DTM direct to metal paint.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. That's all I have.
Thank you. Commissioner Berkey?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I don't have any questions, but looks very nice.
And Commissioner Heiken?
Yeah, I have no questions. I'll echo the rest of the board. It looks very nice. Thanks for taking on the project, and welcome to Wheeling.
Thank you.
And I have no questions either. It's going to be a nice improvement. So with that, were there any conditions? I don't believe so.
No. Nope.
All right, then I would entertain a motion to approve 2302.
So moved.
Second?
Who motioned?
Heiken.
I can never tell which one it is down there. Commissioner Heiken?
Yes.
Commissioner Meyer?
Yes.
Commissioner Berkey?
Yes.
Commissioner Sprague is a yes. Commissioner Riles?
Yes?
Chairman Johnson?
Yes. You're all set?
Okay, so it's approved, and then we can talk tomorrow about moving.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good luck.
All right, next we move on to our concept review, which is docket number 2023-14, the concept review for gas and wash planned unit development, 1750 to 1794 and 1798 East Hintz Road. Ms. Nyes, anything?
No, just again, that this is an opportunity for the Plan Commission to ask questions or provide comment to the petitioner. We did have a couple staff recommendations that we can talk about at the end. They're very general, but I believe, well, the petitioner does have their own presentation, so
All
they
right,
can come on up. And you can control the mouse from up.
if we won't be able to see it.
No, that's right. You know, it's just the same thing that was in your packet. It's the same drawings.
Okay. Come on up. Unfortunately, our individual monitors are not working tonight, so we may have to turn around and look at the big screen a little bit. So please.
Thank you. My name is Lyman Tiemann. I'm 12417 Tahoe Lane in Mokina. I'm the attorney for Gas and Wash and I have with me this evening our development team, which is comprised of Chris Kalachevsky with WT Group, and WT Group is in charge of our land planning and architecture for the site. And also I have Brian Hertz from MG2A and Associates. Brian is our civil engineer on the project. We've been working with your staff. We believe we have a proposal for you this evening, which will fit very well into the, I think it's roughly 4.2 acre site at the northeast corner. And with that, I know Chris Kalachevsky has a slide presentation he'd like to go through with you, and obviously we're all here to answer any questions you have. So with that, I'd like to turn it over to Chris, and then we can move into Brian as we get a little bit further into the presentation.
All right.
Thank you.
And please state your name and business address for our records.
Yeah, Christian Kulishevsky from WT Group, 2675 Pradham Avenue, Hoffman Estates, Illinois, 60192.
We will need you to spell your last name for our recording secretary.
For the good Irish name there. Kulishevsky is Kalischefski.
Thank you. All right, tell us about the project.
All right, and here's the map that is shown. We are at the northeast corner of Old Buffalo Grove Road and Hintz Road. On the very hard corner is the existing gas station, and then in the back was the former grocery store, and then the retail center was along the east side. As you can see from the site, it's almost 100% paved. And of course, we're surrounded by residential, but this is a B3 district zoning, which is basically commercial. And as in the staff notes mentioned, even in your comprehensive plan, it's designated for commercial. So just overall, the site, the overall area of the site itself, and in the situation it is, you can tell the arrow is the general location of the site itself. The next slide is specifically, again, focus a little bit more. Again, this is the existing gas station, the former grocery store, and then the retail center. And again, you can literally see it's pavement to pavement to pavement. So what we are proposing here is more than just a gas station. Gas and Wash really feels it's very important to relate to the community and want to become part of the community. As such, we do that with the use of our materials, the product offerings, and also even the landscaping that's augmenting the site itself. This site itself has a 35% maximum coverage area. We're only 14%. So what I'm trying to point out there is that we're less than half of what's allowed. We're not trying to overpopulate this site. We feel that these services that we're offering are really needed in this area and would not only benefit the surrounding community directly adjacent to us, but also the morning traffic as it's going east on Hintz and also some on west as well. And then also the evening traffic as well. So the existing traffic. The use of this is what's called a retail fueling facility. And we use the existing traffic counts of the roadways to determine if this is a wise investment. And so we feel the amount of traffic that's already on Hintz Road is viable to making this investment. So the first thing that we have along Hintz Road, and I'm trying to find the mouse, there we are. Along Hintz Road is our auto canopy. And Brian will get a little bit more in detail with the plan shortly. Following that is our C-store, where we have 2 food offerings, a morning offering, which is like a Dunkin' Donuts or a Do-Right Donuts type facility, and then our second food offering is always specific to the community. We like to make some analysis and see what is really needed in the area. If there's a certain type of restaurant that's already over proliferated in the area, then obviously we don't want to do that. But so we really look at what would really meet the needs of the area there. That would be the second offering, then the convenience store, and then the separate tenant space for a liquor store. What we have in the very back is a car wash. It is an express-style car wash. I want to define that a little bit in terms of...
Could you speak a little louder?
Oh, certainly.
Thank you.
We have an express-style car wash where it's different than the traditional car wash-style car wash, which is a rollover that takes 6 minutes per car. And it's also different than the full serve where you have a bunch of people vacuuming the cars before and where you have people dry toweling it as well. This is in between. It takes the better aspects of both car washes and puts it into this convenience setting. And what that is the patron rides through the car wash completely. There's an actual heat chamber. That's an actual wall that separates the drying area from the washing area. We elevate the heat in there with solaronics, furnaces that you actually see the flame, a little bit of a commercial kind of marketing, telling the customer that we are really heating this up to really dry up the car, and then we augment that with 15 vacuums, 15 dryers, I'm sorry. And so the car comes out relatively bone dry as much as possible from the current technology. We also have doors that shut with each car as it's going through. Our buildings are full masonry bearing. They contain the sound within the building. We build our facilities in the communities. We have some that are in commercial areas and some in industrial areas, but a lot of our sites are right in the residential area. And when we make our formal submittal, we'll have letters from mayors of the communities showing how good of how good of a neighbor Gas and Wash is to the community itself. And so with that, I'd like to bring Brian up to explain more of the aspects of the site plan, and then I'll just wrap up after that.
Thanks, Chris. My name is Brian Hertz. It's Hertz. I'm with MG2A. Our address is 25620 South Gauger, Gougar Road in Manhattan, Illinois, 60442. So just kind of going through the site here, it is about 4.2 acre site. As Chris mentioned, it's entirely impervious in the current state. So we would, we're going to have to meet the MWRD and the village's requirements for stormwater management. We don't have specific areas above ground that we can do that on this site, but we're proposing to do underground detention volume. So, basically there's no stormwater management on the site right now. So any and all of the volume that we provide is going to be in addition to, or, the volume's not there today, so it will dramatically change the stormwater characteristics of the site. As far as the access, we have an access at the far north end up here on Old Buffalo Grove Road. That would be a full access. We also have another access point down here towards the south end. Those are in generally similar locations to what exists there today. The access down here, there's an access here, and then there's a couple down here for the existing gas station site. We're proposing to eliminate these access points on Hintz Road. We're showing one new proposed full access towards the east side of the site. It's pretty common, to eliminate those close access points to an intersection now. So this is all going to be reviewed and have to be permitted through the Cook County Department of Transportation. Both of these roadways are under their jurisdiction. As far as traffic circulation on the site, people would be able to enter at these locations. They could come in and proceed to the automobile fueling canopy. There are 7 individual islands for automobiles to fuel at. Chris mentioned the canopy. The canopy is a T-shaped canopy, so that means that there's a cover over the automobile fueling islands, but then there's also a T portion that extends all the way to the C-store, and that provides a covered way for patrons to enter and exit the store, in case it's raining or something like that. They have some shelter. So we do have 2 drive-throughs on this property. There's one on the east side of the convenience store over here. The customer would enter here and then drive through, proceed north, make the turn west, and then swing up close to the building to the service window here. Menu board would be back here, close to the northeast corner of the C-store. And then the other drive-through is over here, so people would most likely come in on this full access here and enter the drive-through and continue north, and then drive east, and then swing up close to the building here to the service window, which is located on the west side of the store. The menu board in this case would be located back in this area here. We also have some parking provided. There's a row of parking here to the west of the drive-through. We also have parking in the front of the store, this row here. And then there's some parking to the north of the north drive-through also. That parking back there would probably be designated most likely for employees. We have, with the car wash, we have 3 pay station lanes. So there's a lane with an automatic gate at each one of those pay stations, each of the 3 pay station lanes. So the cars would enter here, drive through the pay station, and then continue north, and then make the bend to line up to enter the tunnel. As Chris mentioned, these cars are, they're pulled through the tunnel basically on a conveyor. So the attendant would, direct the people where to be, and then they'd let the car go through, and they exit on the west side of the building. They would make the turn here, come back out the way they came in, and then they could either exit or they could go and get something in the store or whatever they like. Another thing to point out on this site is that we have commercial fueling lanes. So these are for diesel fuel customers. There's 1 here and 1 lane here. So there's 3 islands, but there's 2 fueling positions. And that's pretty typical because, diesel trucks often have tanks on both sides. So there's a main pump for them to use and a satellite pump on the opposite side. And then, a main and then a satellite on the other side. So the big thing with these gas and wash sites is that, it's our goal to limit the amount of intermingling of automobiles and trucks or commercial fueling vehicles. It's not always trucks. It could be box trucks, landscape vehicles pulling trailers, things like that. But, the intention is that those would enter up here, proceed through, come down, be facing south when they're fueling, and then exit the site. So kind of a clockwise motion there. The interaction between the car traffic is limited to basically right here. Some cars may use this north access, but it's going to be pretty minimal. So, if you can kind of imagine that, there's a separation between the two types of traffic right through here. That's really about all I have. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer those.
No, we'll get to that.
Okay.
What's really important, as Brian was pointing out, is that we're very cognizant of what makes this site successful. For a retail fueling site to be successful, you need to make it safe, you need to make it convenient for the customer. And so it's very purposeful that we separate the auto and the truck traffic. And as Brian was mentioning, this is not a truck stop by a definition of a travel plaza. We do not have a formal sit-down, full-serve restaurant. We do not have shower rooms. We do not have laundry facilities. In fact, you see nowhere on this site that there's any designated truck parking other than the 2 spots just south of the CFL lane. And that's very purposeful. We are looking for what's called the day runners, the ones that are on the road today that could be fueling and stopping for a quick bite for lunch and then grabbing that, taking it into their vehicle and continuing on. So really want to make that clear. There is no designated truck parking. There are no designated truck typical facilities within offerings within the facility. We do want to become very friendly in terms of offering the product to the community in terms of what we try to do is we try to make a full, not try, we do, full masonry bearing building. All 4 sides of both buildings are full masonry bearing, the most expensive way to build today. And the reason we do that is twofold. One, to make a commitment, a statement of commitment to the community that we're here for the long term. We're not building with wood studs that can be demoed real easy and rebuilt in 7 years as some of the QSRs are. We also want to state not only a commitment to the community, but a very long-lasting material that looks great on day 1 and will continue to look great on the years down the road. So that's very important to us. What Brian had mentioned, the little T-shaped canopy, that's a portion of the canopy that returns back to the building. All the columns of the canopy are automatically wrapped. That's a gas and wash standard with a stone base and the brick going all the way up. So we're very mindful of the aesthetic of how the canopy ties into the building and such. Similar with the car wash, we have, again, full masonry on all 4 sides. And that helps, and this building has precast hollow core precast concrete roofs, so that, again, any sound from the wash equipment is contained within the wash equipment itself. Going back to the site plan, you see the row of vacuums here. These are not your old style canisters with the hose that was 20 feet long and went all over the ground. These are very purposely put in at each stripe of the parking lanes, and it's connected with a nozzle, so you pick it up, you do your driver's side of the car, you put it back in the nozzle, you walk around, you do the passenger side with the other nozzle. Again, just a small detail, but emphasis on convenience and cleanliness and not dragging a hose through your car. Again, it's all that equipment though. The compressors, the vacuums are actually inside the building, so they're not outside. So the only thing that's outside are the hoses. All the compressors are within the masonry building itself. As an example, we have sites that are closer to residential than this current one, and again, we'll be submitting those letters from the mayor saying how well we work with the community. We've even been up to 66 feet away from a residence and have mitigated any sound there. Our closest one here is 151 feet away. And across the street, we've been closer, we've been at 135 feet, and we're at 218.
So we already have sites that prove that they are compatible to the needs of the community in which they're placed. And so we just want to point that out as well. Again, this is the type of the look. LED lighting has transformed this industry. You probably remember the old gas stations with the metal halide lamps that hung below the canopy that glared from miles away. You could see it forever. We have LED light emitting diode lighting, all flush with the soffit of the canopy itself and all similar fixtures on the yard lights. LEDs are great because they can be so controlled, and we focus them on the face of the dispensers because that's where the task environment is. And so it's very focused, very good lighting, and not a glare at all. And you could see kind of from this perspective here. And that is our presentation at the point. Again, just want to emphasize we're about 14% in terms of maximum lot coverage. Allowable is 35%. The one thing I didn't mention in terms of what we like to do, landscaping, we'll be adding full perimeter landscaping around the entire north and east side with a sound fence as well. We'll submit that in our formal submittal. And we, in our landscaping designs, always exceed the landscape requirements. We feel very strongly to be part of our architecture, not only building architecture, but we have movement throughout all seasons and color throughout all seasons. So it's very important to us to make a very beautiful site. We want to be part of the community, and we're here to answer any questions.
All right. Thank you. Let's start with Commissioner Sprague this time.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good evening.
Hello, sir.
I think overall it's a good use for the space there, although there are some aspects that raise concerns that could keep me from being in favor of this. Hopefully you'll work on those. First, of course, is the water detention, which you have discussed, and you're going to work with staff on that. Noise is a large concern, especially from the car wash. You did go over that somewhat. I did like hearing that you're going to use a sound fence to help mitigate that. I'm concerned about the noise coming out the east and west ends because cars, that'll be open.
We do have speed doors that close.
Open and close, so when it's open, there could be more noise, so maybe look into some sound mitigation on the ends.
We do.
Possibly.
We will do a study on sound decibels and make sure that we meet the state requirements. We have to. Yeah.
Are there going to be diesel pumps with the gas pumps under the canopy also?
No. Well, do you do a 3+1, Kevin, under the canopy? Yeah, on the ends, but that will be auto diesel. So it won't be for trucks and that. It's a slow speed. It's a different diameter nozzle that will be at this canopy, where these will be the bigger nozzles and the higher speed.
But a landscaping truck or a delivery service truck could use those diesel pumps under the canopy?
Could, but we would strongly suggest to them that they would be using the other element, because we very purposely do that. We separate those two uses.
Because that's a concern of mine, because I've seen where landscapers and delivery service vehicles can completely shut down a lot. And that could also affect your drive-throughs.
Yeah, exactly. And yes, it's very damaging to our business. And that's why we very purposeful make the commercial fueling vehicles go here, and we'll strongly suggest that they move over to there. Because, like you say, with the big trailers, they block the whole circulation around. And like the two things that make make this site successful is safety and convenience. And if a customer has to go around these, they'll go to the next station.
I see that there's an entrance to the north that trucks can come in on.
Yes.
Now, when they come around that way to use the diesel island there, and then they go to leave out on Hintz Road,
Yes.
it looks like there could be a cross-pattern problem there as far as cars coming in from Hintz and then a semi-truck waiting there to get out on Hintz Road.
We do have enough space that, and we're very cognizant of it, it's a very good point that you're making. We can't allow cars to back up onto Hintz. Safety concern and quite frankly, a customer aggravation concern. And so we have enough distance that a semi-truck would be sitting here and they can come in and go into the main aisle. So we try to drive our customers always into the main aisle, which is the space between the dispenser and the store. And so you can see that we have this whole space right here for that stacking purposes. And we'll have signage and stuff like that for no standing in between that main aisles.
I just wanted to point out that that could be a possible problem spot there.
It's very critical, and if we don't pay attention to that, the $10 million of investment into this site would be for naught. So yeah, we're very cognizant of that.
You said there won't be any truck parking, so that means there can't be any overnight parking, correct?
Absolutely not. No, absolutely not. That's detrimental to our image. It's detrimental to our business model.
I noticed on your map here, there's a drawing for propane, and then there's also a shed. Is that, what's the propane?
It's literally the propane for your propane tanks that get filled right there.
Okay.
So it's not an exchange. You actually bring your tank and it is filled by our attendant right at that point there. And then the shed itself is, one, it's a compressor is inside there, and it feeds the air lines that are at the CFL. And then we have like bags of salt and stuff like that that are not for sale, but need to be distributed along the site. So maintenance type items are found within that building.
Thank you. I just wanted to reiterate some of the concerns from the board too, as far as the lighting is a concern with the residential area around there. Also, the businesses that you bring in, if you could concentrate on businesses that we may not have in town.
That, we'd love to do that.
Versus duplicating something that's already in town.
Absolutely.
That would be great.
And lighting, we will meet all the requirements at the perimeter. And again, LED has made my job as an architect so much easier. I can control that lighting to exactly where I want it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That's all I have.
Commissioner Riles.
Thank you. Just a couple questions.
Yes, sir.
And your business model appears to be, on point, but there's a lot of movement and misdirection and flow, and people are people. And I see the truck entrance, I see the car wash, and I see the lanes for the restaurants and the drive up, but it just seems confusing to me for the store. If people come in off of Hintz and they go to the menu board to order their item, then they drive around to head west and they go to the service window to pick up their order. Just to the north of that are the parking lanes, correct?
There's some parking spaces there
And
for
so
the employees.
if I park my car there, am I dancing between the flow of traffic to pick up their orders at the window to get into the facility?
There's a designated walkway that comes around into the site, and there is one crossing point.
Show me up here.
The crossing point is right here. You can see the main sidewalk coming in here.
Right.
There is a public entrance to the back of the building. And so the sidewalks come around here, and then we'll be across this area here. So we don't want to bring them through here, we want to bring them around and at one point, which we'll have designated with striping and you know, no stop sign with pedestrians and stuff like that.
So if I'm parked at, in that parking area where the number 2 is, I'm going to follow that walkway east, around, and across to get into the facility there, is what you're saying?
That would be the desired intent. And again, the intention of those stalls are for employees. So we have more control of how they.
So that's not for the public then, the park?
Can we prohibit it? Well, I guess we could put signs up there and say no public parking. The intent would be for the employees, yeah. Our main customer wants it convenient. Our main customer is going to park along the front and along the side right here, as opposed to the back.
That's part of my concern because, as I stated, people are people, and, you know, they're thinking of a million different things while they're moving, or they're on their cell phone, or they're looking at their cell phone, and to cross, you know, traffic like that at the, you know, what people are in line ordering, I mean, it's just, for me, it's a cause for concern.
Okay, understood.
I also, I mean, I like your layout, but again, you have the 2 places where people can place their orders. But then what if I get my order, or in reverse order, either way, what if I get my order and say, oh, you know, I want to go wash my car? It looks to me, I still have to make a decision of how to get from one location to the other. And it appears that there's, again, and I use the word loosely, I'm dancing between cars or traffic to get from the restaurant to the car wash, or vice versa. I go to the car wash, then I got to figure out how I'm going to get over to the restaurant. And that, it just, for me,
Yeah.
the flow seems kind of, again, I use the word misdirection. So I would think the concept is to make it as easy, simple, and safe for everyone.
Absolutely, absolutely. And what we do, and we'll get more into detail on this, at every decision point, there will be a stop bar and a stop sign, such as the pull-out point for the drive-through at the morning coffee offering, or the drive-through in the back. We'll have a stop bar and a stop sign there. So whenever a decision needs to be made, there is that stopping point. And then we have a full 2-way lane in the back for them to maneuver to the car wash. We do have wayfinding signs that we feel give pretty clear direction around the site as to how to get to the different offerings. This is not the first site that we have drive-throughs and car washes and CFLs. That's more of our prototypical layout. And you're absolutely right. If we make it confusing, people will get frustrated. And this is not a destination use. This is a siphoning use where people pull off for convenience sake. They'll just go down to the next gas station. They'll come over to here to Dundee Road and fill up here. So we are very thankful for your comment, and we will look at it again. But yes, we're in agreement. It has to be clear and easy.
Sure, and the final thing is the truck stop. You have the location for the entrance of the trucks to get to the diesel fuel. Mm-hmm. But what if a person just driving their car happened to turn in there because they see it's an entrance? Is there a backup or a way to, what happens once they go in there where the trucks are?
Right, that's why we have this main horizontal roadway right here to allow for any escape there. If they accidentally come into here,
right,
we will be signing this as truck entrance.
Right.
But like you say, if a car goes in there, he has a way to get out through this without going through the fueling area. He could bypass as well, but this would be, what's that?
That's full width bypass
Yeah.
on the east side.
Yeah, so, and we do that purposely as well, the bypass lane, just in case someone gets a call and they have to continue on. The other case, what you're saying also is if a person's coming in Hintz here and they're not paying attention or something, and all of a sudden find themselves over here.
Sure.
Again, they have that outlet to get out this way. So that's one of the functions of that.
No, and I appreciate that and I respect that, but again, people are people. In most cases, they're not fully thinking, they're concentrating on what they want to get. So if it's a car wash, or if it's something to eat, or if it's a liquor store, whatever they're concentrating on, that's what they're focusing on, and they don't pay attention to the other directions that are given. And so for me, it's just a matter of being safety, especially once you get out of your car and you're coming to the building to go inside and to have to dance through traffic. To me, it appears it could be somewhat of an issue. But that's the only concern really that I have, is to make sure that everything is explained as best as you possibly can in, bold words, letters, or whatever, to help the drivers understand where they need to go and how they need to get there with limited confusion as best as possible. And that's pretty much my concern. But I thank you. I appreciate you.
Commissioner Meyer.
Thank you. Thank you for bringing your concept forward. I know you have several locations in the state. Just a few things, and I'm going to echo some of my concerns. I love LED lighting as well, but I think we can all acknowledge that the brightness associated with it there's varying degrees, and sometimes that can be a little too much, especially in a nearby residential area. So I would just say, I'm a fan of the technology, but really be sensitive to our residents. I know you mentioned that you had done a traffic study. We talked a little bit about Hintz Road. I would also encourage you to look at Old Buffalo Grove Road, because a lot of people use that as a cut-through. And so, that may impact you as well. I was a bit curious in your design. You mentioned the 2 service windows. How do you have a clear separation? I can see from a traffic pattern standpoint how that works, but how do you have a clear separation of those 2 service lanes?
We definitely focus on the wayfinding signs and direct them, like the entrance. If this would be a taco offering, the name of that. If this is a Dunkin' Donuts, that would be at that entrance. And then general placements by the entryways where they're coming in, where it's most clear to show directions where to go for them.
Okay, because again, we don't want, any sort of traffic impediments. The other thing I would just observe is, again, whenever you do have a sidewalk that goes past a drive-through lane, I think there needs to be extra caution, whether that's some flashing lights or something to that effect, because many people oftentimes are on their cell phones and not paying attention. And then my final comment is just from an architectural standpoint. I believe, and please correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe you showed your car wash building with a slope, whereas some of your other buildings tended to look a little bit different.
Just at the exit part of the car wash, we try to accent it and put a little hip roof towards it, just to provide some interest. Again, these walls will be covered with the vacuums. On the plan itself, we have the vacuums all along here. We have the landscaping. We'll have landscaping all along here. And so this part right here is where that hip roof is, just to accent the exit.
And so again, we look for consistency in design as one thing I would just share with you. Thank you.
Thank you. Yep. Commissioner Berkey.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good evening. I have just a couple questions, and I echo some of the concerns you've heard already, but do you have a feel for how many customers will be coming through at maximum capacity on a given day?
Roughly, we're looking at 1,000 to 1,500 in that area.
And at the same time, like what does that usually look like for this type of, some of your other stores?
That's right in line with this type of store with this type of road count.
Okay. And then looking at the the southeast side, where there's an entrance on Hintz and exit on Hintz, am I seeing that correctly, that you're allowing, or the customers will be allowed to exit both eastbound, or east and west?
Yes.
Okay. My only concern with that is that Hintz can be pretty busy. It can be pretty tricky making a left, on that street from that direction. But I guess that's something to take up with the traffic.
We have to go through Cook County, but also, quite frankly, our traffic engineer will analyze that, and if it's a safe movement with a Class C or higher in terms of the traffic movement, then we'll go forward with it. If it's not, then we'll reconsider.
Okay. That's all I have. Thanks.
Okay.
Commissioner Hyken.
Yes, thank you. I'm going to echo the same thing in that same spot. Traveling down Hintz Road in the morning with the angle of the sun at the right time of year, you're like blind. And same thing going the other way in the afternoon. What were the hours intended for the car wash? I'm concerned too about the residents in the area.
Basically, it's like from 7 to 10.
7 a.m. to 10 p.m.?
Yeah.
Okay.
And quite frankly, in the late evenings, that's more for maintenance, quite frankly, to clean the canopies, the vacuums, and empty the trash in that.
Okay. And I'm going to echo with the Hintz Road and Buffalo Grove Road. That's a very dangerous intersection before adding all this other traffic to it. So a traffic study, I think, would be a good idea. And then the last thing that I have is, in the village meeting, you mentioned something about boring readings from the soil.
Yeah, we've already done, we've got two types of soil testing that we'll do here. We'll do geotech soil testing for the strength of the building and that, but even more important on this site, because of the previous existence of a dry cleaner, is an environmental testing. And we have done that, have determined that it's going to cost about $200,000 to clean up the mess that they left us.
Okay.
So we're aware of that. That will have to be dug up, hauled off to a licensed yard. So we have done the phase 1, and we're in the process of phase 2, and eventually we'll do phase 3.
And the last point that I have, in front of the store, we don't have very good pictures of that, but you plan on using bollards in front of the store as well?
At specific points, we don't do a total flat sidewalk like some of the offerings are, but at the points where the accessible stalls are, that's getting very flush, so then we'll have the bollards.
Okay. That's all I have. Thank you.
All right. Well, just to tag on to the environmental study, is there also cleanup required where the gas station is involved? There's still tanks under there?
Yes, and we're still doing that study of that.
Okay. Well, almost everybody's brought up traffic, and you said you did a traffic study?
No, we've looked at it, and we are engaging, our traffic engineer that we use is KOLA, Luay Obuna. Everyone knows him, the best one around.
Okay, because frankly, I'm thinking you're not going to get enough diesel trucks down there.
Okay.
I travel on Hintz Road all the time. Very rarely see diesel trucks.
Okay.
I mean, yes, you have landscapers, but even if their main truck is diesel, they're filling up all their gas cans for the mowers and everything else at the regular pumps. So you really need a good study on that.
Mm-hmm.
Going back to Commissioner Ryle's discussion on parking and access to the store, that west parking area looks like you would actually have to cross 2 drive-through lanes and a propane farm to get to the store.
Right in this front area here, that's where
Yeah.
we'll be bringing them across. And
So something has to happen there.
and we'll show existing conditions where we have that in place.
On the one rendering we have of the store layout, something that wasn't mentioned is you have a retail 1,200 square foot section carved out. What's that?
That is the proposed liquor store that I mentioned. It has to be a separate element. It's a proposed liquor store that is separate from the building itself. It is a complete demising wall, its own entry, own pay point, own facilities, all that.
I know that came up at the board meeting, that it's hard to separate it from a gas station selling liquor. That's something for them to take up. But by the time you carve out that 1,200 square feet and then room for 2 restaurants, how much convenience store is actually left?
We still have just under 3,000 square feet, which is what we find is kind of the optimal space for it. If you make them too big, people won't walk that far to the walk-in cooler, which, quite frankly, we want them to walk to.
Okay. Now, according to what I saw, the fact that you have the high-flow diesel pumps, by state definition, you become a truck stop.
For the gaming classification, yes.
And where does the gaming happen? Just in a corner of the store?
That would be, usually it's more in the upfront portion, right in this area right here. It's a defined area, usually off. It needs to be within view of the cashier area, of course. And so it's in the front, it's in the open sales area, but it is defined with a low solid wall and then a frosted glass wall that goes up to about 6 feet.
I'm confused by the state regulation on this, because they say if you have a truck stop, you can automatically have gaming, yet it's not the truck drivers you want going in there and gaming, because then they have to be parking their trucks. So I just have trouble working that out in my mind. You said you had 7 islands. I assume that's 14 pumps?
Potential for 14 cars to be at the pumps, yeah.
Okay.
2-sided, multi-product dispensers.
I agree, there's going to have to be a lot of directional signage to navigate through this. Let's see what else.
We make our lanes extra wide in terms of this point right through here, throughout our site. Typical retail petroleum facilities will bring this curb much closer. We very purposely give wide open berths to make it visually understandable and more easily navigable for our customers. We know that we are offering a variety. This is an entire business model. It's not one thing that's making the business, and these are all just accessory things. All these need to work together to make this investment successful, and so we're very cognizant of how we direct the customers, not only physically in the car, but visually when they're in certain parts of our site. So we very purposely leave open wide vistas for them to see that clearly. Obviously it's self-serving. It's making sure the customers knows what's offered and how to get there.
All right. Anything from the fire department, Mr. Nemec?
When they come in for more permitting, we need to see some turning radius studies, make sure we can have full access around, get around all the buildings and everything like that too. And we'll also look a little bit closer at the propane in regards to the refilling process and what needs to be happen with that according to the code.
Okay, thank you. Engineering.
Two of the items that you mentioned, obviously, were brought up. Cook County Department of Transportation and their review of the ingress-egress points of this site. Obviously, you're aware that needs to be done, but I can already kind of tell that southwest entrance right there at Old Buffalo Grove Road, probably going to have a hard time getting them to agree to a full access entrance there and an exit. You know, it's right there by a turn lane to go eastbound on Hintz Road. So that might only be allowed to be a right-in, right-out. So I guess what I would recommend is to have a kind of a pre-application meeting, or like a concept review meeting with the Department of Transportation, kind of show them this concept, get their feedback. That way there's no surprises when you go in to submit for an actual permit. Like I said, both those roads being owned by the county and the change in use of the site, they may want you to go a different direction with some of those entrances. So that was one thing. And then stormwater management. Obviously, this site is big enough to trigger MWRD requirements for detention, but I just also want to make sure that you're aware that the village actually has a little bit more strict regulations as far as stormwater management, more specifically the release rate. And I noticed that obviously all of the detention is going to be provided underground. So obviously it's something to keep in mind. You know, with a lower release rate, increases the volume for detention, and underground detention is not cheap, and that is a mostly impervious site. So a couple things to keep in mind. So those were the two big concerns that we had. Nothing else.
Thank you. Marcy, anything else from the staff that you'd like to?
No, I think everything was covered.
Okay. Any other questions from the commissioner?
Yeah, I do have one more question, and I see from your layout here, you have 2 spaces for handicap parking. Is it just going to be that limit for 2? Are you anticipate increasing the number and just handicap accessibility in and out and around? But I did notice that, so I was wondering if there's going to be an increase to accommodate.
We certainly could. We are meeting the requirements right now. And all our access ways in terms of our sidewalks and progression of that will be at the 2%, maximum slope. So we're very cognizant of that.
Okay. And the other thing you said, you'll be closing at 10 p.m.?
For the car wash.
For the car wash, but everything else is going to be open till when?
From my understanding, 24/7.
Station will be open 24/7, and the convenience store 24/7.
Okay, but the liquor store would...
The liquor store has to comply with your packaged liquor sales.
Village code, yeah.
Sure. Thank you. That's all.
I think you're going to get a lot of pushback on the 24/7 thing from the neighbors. I'm getting nods from behind you, so so be prepared. Anything from you guys down there? All right then. Thank you for your presentation. I hope the comments and suggestions you've heard will be considered before you go too far on the preliminary stuff. And good luck. All right. Next up, we have a public hearing, docket 2023-15, request for special use to permit a cannabis consumption lounge within an existing licensed cannabis dispensary. CESAM LLC, doing business as OK Cannabis, 781 North Milwaukee. Mr. Secretary.
CESAM LLC, DBA OK Cannabis is seeking special use approval pursuant to Title 19, zoning of the Wheeling Municipal Code, Chapter 19.10, use regulations and associated sections. In order to permit a cannabis consumption lounge within an existing licensed cannabis dispensary located at 781 North Milwaukee Avenue, which is zoned MXC, Commercial Residential Mixed Use Zoning District. A special use is defined in the zoning code as a use of parcel of land that requires review and consideration before approval due to the potential for negative impacts on surrounding properties. In order to be considered for a special use, the petitioner is required to demonstrate through testimony to the Planning Commission at a public hearing that the request meets the standards of the village code, including but not limited to how the proposed use will not damage the enjoyment or use of the surrounding properties. Prior to the public hearing, the petitioner provides written statements meant to show that the request meets the standards of the special use as established in Title 19. The commission chairperson will typically direct that these statements be entered into the record without a full reading of them at the hearing. Based upon the testimony and supporting materials submitted, the Planning Commission will make findings in support of or against the petitioner's testimony and report those findings to the village board.
Thank you. And thank you, Bob, for the crowd control. Ms. Knight.
So I just wanted to outline for everyone that the special use is for a cannabis consumption lounge. And we just have a few regulations for the on-site consumption of cannabis. It has to be within a licensed dispensary. And it's an area designated for the heating, burning, smoking, or lighting of cannabis. You have to be individuals 21 years of age and older, and has to be maintained a locked door or barrier to any specially designated areas for the purpose of heating, burning, or smoking, or lighting cannabis. And you'll see in the presentation, but just a couple things that I just want to point out. Edibles are not permitted, infusing items are not permitted, so he's not going to be cooking and making food and bakery items with cannabis and eating them. This is solely smoking cannabis, correct me if I'm wrong, Scott. And then there's also, people would make reservations, and there's a 90-minute limit, and then this cool down. So just pay attention, if you haven't reviewed the presentation, either, take a quick look at the report, watch the presentation. I just wanted to point out those couple things that it's not everything, it's solely limited to smoking, and it's with the dispensary, not with the bakery. Hope I got that clear.
Thank you.
So go ahead, Scott. Oh, wait.
Yeah,
I'm going to swear me in.
go swear 'em in and state your name, business address.
Hi, Scott Weiner, 781 North Milwaukee Avenue, Wheeling.
And do you swear the testimony you're giving tonight to be the truth?
I do.
All right, go ahead.
Nice to see everyone. A couple follow-ups for you. We're
Great.
painting the building today because it's now officially warm enough, so we know that it will stick. Just remember, monument sign, landscaping is also coming. However, I don't know if anybody else saw, somebody crashed into the sign last week.
I did.
So they dug it up, so.
We're
Just a couple follow-ups. I didn't forget on my promises, but the rest of the landscaping plan's happening this week. And onto the cannabis consumption. To start, has anybody read the presentation that I presented or gave you guys?
Yes.
Okay. I'm happy to talk about it, talk about the things that you guys have asked me to provide, talk about the CFMs and the DOAS unit that's going on the roof, or I can just answer questions, up to you guys.
We want to just go right into the questions? Yeah. All right, Commissioner Meyer.
So thank you so much. Nice to see you again.
You too.
You mentioned that there's a 90-minute limit. I'm curious, how do you enforce that?
Well, we're going to be using, believe it or not, open table.
Okay.
So anybody who's sat will be checked in through there, and they'll, it is reservations only. So, I would imagine if somebody walks in and they would like a reservation, they can make one, but we'll always have a track of when they sat down, how long they've been there. So that's the way we'll be keeping track of it.
Okay, and then you mentioned that you're not doing any food preparation, but you will have that as an offering. So is that coming in off-site from somewhere?
So we have the bakery kitchen.
Right.
And the donuts and all that. So by food preparation, one of the things that we had originally thought about, you know, looking what's going on across the country, there's like classes out there, like and this is just who in my life thought I'd be talking about these things at a village board, but there's a sushi rolling and a spliff rolling thing that, you know, we saw out west and like, wow, that would be such a cool idea. Teach people how to do that. And that's technically food preparation.
Okay.
So that's kind of what those types of things are like, how to bake your own cannabis brownies, you know, demonstrations, that type of stuff we can't do in that space. That would actually involve infusion as well. But if somebody wants to, you know, eat a donut in there, that's not food preparation, and we would plan to serve that to them.
Okay, so you'll leverage the bakery next door.
Exactly.
Okay. And then, you know, again, just about not getting too technical here. I'll leave that to some of my other plan commissioners, but how are you going to enable this separation so that your marijuana fumes don't, you know, permeate?
So a couple ways. As the ordinance states, locked doors can't open. The way people will go into the dispensary is going to, or I'm sorry, into the cannabis consumption lounge will be through the dispensary. And there is a door that currently, you know, you can go from the lobby in and out. That door will remain closed and locked. We do anticipate it'll get opened every now and then when people have to use the restrooms, but the exit will be out into the parking lot. We're modifying the ventilation ducts. And what we're doing is bringing in what's called a DOAS, or a dedicated outdoor air system.
Okay.
And what that system does is, in this case, it's going to bring about, I believe, 3,000 CFMs, or I think that stands for cubic feet per minute of outdoor fresh air, into that space. And the system is ultimately designed for this type of experience. Cigar lounges, they use it at the one in Mundelein as well. And, you know, if you go there, you can't tell that there's anybody consuming. In terms of like a cost analysis versus a normal RTU, which we already have like 6 of them on the roof.
Right.
Frankly, the RTUs would be fine, and they're a lot cheaper. The reason we're actually, the DOAS is actually overkill for a room this size, as well as there's only really going to be 7 or 8 tables in there. In a strange enough world that we live in, the DOAS system, which is usually a 1-year wait to get, is available right now, where an RTU would take about 3-4 months. So we think we're doing overkill, and I don't think anybody will notice that there's cannabis. I would actually, I was down in the loop today, and I would tell you could smell cannabis all over the place there. But if you go in front of a cannabis dispensary, you almost never smell cannabis, because people tend not to want to smoke in the parking lots outside of these things, and you know, but they think they can smoke in front of a restaurant somewhere else. So I think from a standpoint of the community, the area, nobody will notice the smell.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yeah.
That it? Let's go to the other end. Commissioner Hyken.
Yeah, that was my question as well, since I do live in the area. I'm a little concerned about that, but I think overkill is the best way to go. I think we should be okay.
And I know I'll hear from people and you know, if we need to bump it up even more, we have the opportunities, we have the ability.
Really depends on which way the wind is blowing.
I don't think it will matter.
No, I don't think
it will matter. And you know, right now we're about to go into the warm season. This system is also in the cold season. It also brings in and tempers 3,000 cubic feet of outside air to warm it up. So,
right. That's all I have. Thank you.
Okay.
All right, let's go back to this end. Commissioner Riles.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good to see you.
You too.
Just a quick question. You said you're going to have 7 or 8 tables in the lounge?
Yeah.
So what is that capacity are you expecting?
So if you look at the picture up there, it's not that different from what it currently is in there right now.
Right.
So actually right now there's only like 6 sort of loungy sort of tables in there. And obviously there's the tables along the window. Frankly, we haven't figured out how to get anybody to want to sit there yet. But the original kind of intent was people would go in there and sort of hang out on their laptops and do some work during the day. And then, you know, at night, you know, we think we'll catch people before dinner or after dinner, maybe get some dessert. And we're not like seating it like a restaurant. It's more meant to be like a family room kind of atmosphere.
Yeah, and the reason I ask is because I know you have 2 monitors in there, right?
Yeah.
Right.
A big TV and then, yeah, the projection.
Okay, and I was in there and I noticed you had, you know, a game on. What if there's a group of people who, you know, want to come hang out and watch a game? 90 minutes is not going to do it for them.
Sure.
Do you have any idea or plans on trying to accommodate those individuals who want to be in this space, but enjoy the, you know, the entertainment that you have there exceeding the 90-minute limit?
Well, there's a couple options. The 90-minute, if somebody wanted to rent the whole thing out private, then the 90-minute wouldn't apply. With that said, fortunately, there's TVs throughout the whole space. So on the patio, which we just opened up today, we'll have 4 TVs out there, and there's already TVs within the bakery that, you know, we're showing March Madness and all that. So unfortunately, that 90-minute time is for in there. We've committed to doing that. And I also, as I said, there's only 7 tables. I'm not, if you're making, and the village itself, the revenue is coming from people buying cannabis in the dispensary and giving them maybe convincing them to come to us instead because they can consume it there. So if somebody sits in one of those tables for 3-4 hours because they're watching a game, they're not spending money. So we would encourage them to go to the bakery or go sit out on the patio and enjoy the rest of the evening and watch the game.
Oh, okay. No, it makes sense.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Good question.
Yeah, thank you.
Commissioner Berkey.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good evening. Hello again.
Hello.
Couple questions. So you've got the 90-minute stay with additional 30-minute cool down period. Is that 30 minutes part of the 90 minutes or is it 30 plus 90?
I'd imagined it was going to be 30 plus 90, but if the village tells me otherwise, it frankly, it might be a little uncomfortable to tell someone to leave after an hour. And I feel like the intent of this is to make sure that there's enough time to enjoy the experience, not rush the experience, which could lead to using too much of it. Right. I think a 90-minute gives someone enough time to sit down and they're not automatically looking at the hourglass. Right. And then cool down a little bit. With that said, and I'm not a huge cannabis user, but I don't know that I would be able to sit still in one place for an hour and 20 minutes. So I don't think that's going to be I think it's going to be people will be in there for that hour time at the end of the day. They may have a puff of something and, have their cool down.
That was my next question. So the 30 minutes, is that sort of a quote unquote sobering up time for them to not use any before they leave? Or how do you know that they're not over serving themselves?
That's what it means. There's no consumption of cannabis in that last 30 minutes. So if somebody decides to sit there, it's our job to provide the safe service, no different than we would in a bar. If somebody comes in there and says, hey, I'm looking to try this new paper, this or that, one of the first questions we're going to ask them is, how long do you plan to be with us today? They say, we just want to try and get out. Be like, just to let you know, we do have a 30-minute cool down time where we'd ask you to sit here and, we're not going to hold anybody hostage by any means. I don't know that we could, but by no means would we allow anyone to consume cannabis 30 minutes before they're leaving.
Sure. Okay. That's all I have.
Commissioner Sprague.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good evening, Mr. Winter.
Nice to see you, sir.
My question was about ventilation and the odors permeating into the bakery and then also the neighboring businesses, but I was on site, and Scott happened to be there and was happy to answer my questions then, which was the DOAS system, which completely takes care of my concerns. And that's the only question I had, actually. I do have another question, but it doesn't have to do with this particular item.
Okay.
I'll wait until we're done here.
All right.
I'm just going to Spears after this, so I'll be there.
So you said the entry to the consumption lounge is from the dispensary, not like it's shown on the drawing.
So, yeah, this was
I was under the impression you had to leave the dispensary and come back in.
Correct.
The lounge.
So, originally, there was a door that we were asked to remove from the dispensary. There is a door, however, my eyes aren't really working, but
Next to the fireplace.
No, yeah, so that one's not there.
Oh, okay.
There is a door next to the exit on the bottom. I could actually use the mouse. There's a door right here. So,
the lounge exit.
right, so this would actually now be the entrance. So a guest would walk in. Currently, this door is open. This door will no longer be open. It will be locked. And this would only really be used more as emergency exit, or, if someone does use the restroom, this is probably the way we'll go, but there will be curtains here. We could ask them to go through this. There's nothing illegal about that from the state's viewpoint. However, if you're coming into the dispensary, you can only use product that you've bought in the dispensary. There's no outside product. So you'd come in here, make your purchase, pick up here, and then be escorted right over here, where there'd be, the concierge, the host that would put you in here.
Assuming you've made a reservation.
Assuming you've made the reservation. And then...
So is somebody posted at that door to...
There already is.
To assure reservation? There is at that, what's currently the exit?
Yeah, there will be someone posted here as it is to check you in. You can sit here right now, but there's no outside smoking devices. Right. So you could sit there and sneak in. There'd be nothing to do, and we wouldn't serve you. But yes, there will be someone here checking in on open table. Realistically, we're going to check you in here, so we're prepared for you when you get here. But then we also have security. There is one guard here. There's always a guard here, and then typically there's a guard when we're busy, either here and then patrolling the outside. So there's going to be multiple places to sort of intercept if somebody tries to do anything they shouldn't. One other thing to note, all of this, from this exterior to this, it's not just monitored by our cameras, and I'd offered the fire team if they wanted access to our camera system, which declined, but the option's open. But the state police are also always monitoring our cameras as well, so there's always someone with eyes on this space.
All right, it's stated that it's only for smoking, you can't do edibles in there, but if somebody purchased them in the dispensary, how do you stop them from using edibles?
Well,
I mean, let's be realistic.
The same way that if they were using them in the bakery right now, you would just have to be vigilant, or using them in any bar. It's, it's tough. And it's part of our jobs, but, that's the challenge in these things. But I would imagine that the people that are going to be using, there's very few places that you can publicly smoke cannabis. Will be third or fourth in the state. You can sneak an edible anywhere. So, I don't know that that would really be the reason somebody would want to sit there, so they can, take a capsule. But if we see it, we'll ask them to leave after a 30-minute cool down.
And where do the people go for this cool down period?
They sit where they're at.
so they're still
They're-
exposed to other people smoking next to them.
Correct. They're under our supervision. I'm sure we can move them to the bakery if we'd like to. But I think we're trying to sort of keep the balance of safety and being able to observe and make sure they're not somewhere else, maybe doing something else. So that is a valid point. You know, if you think a cool down period would be better elsewhere, we'd be happy to do it. And there's no law stating that a cool down has to happen. It's just, I'm sorry, I saw your head pop up, correct?
You're right, yes.
It's just a safety mechanism we're trying to do to be more responsible.
So is that a village thing or?
It is one of the things that they included in their proposal that we then just codified in a condition, but it's not a state or village requirement.
And you know, there aren't a lot of these and we're all learning. And, you know, we researched what's happening across the country, what's happening in Mundelein, and these were some of the very similar sort of rules and restrictions that they had. I don't believe it's illegal, frankly, to do an edible.
It's not.
You know, that's just
It's not in the state.
right. That's just a restriction that we have, and that comes from an edible is 100% THC, where cannabis flower is actually less. So we think that's just more of common sense. You know, we don't want people doing that there. That's not the point of the room.
And I feel like you get the impact more from the smoke to be able to regulate that versus the edible has the delayed impact sometimes.
Correct. An edible could be 30 to 45 minutes, and different people's body, based on their metabolism, affects it differently, where flower typically, or a pre-roll would typically hit you pretty quickly, and you'll know where you stand.
Won't the DOAS system take away a lot of that secondhand smoke?
Should. It better.
Yeah. Yeah.
It better, but that's the purpose of it, you know?
Right.
It's not going to be a smoke-filled cigar room with, you know, there's no video gaming with people playing poker. It's meant to be a very, like if you were in a casino and someone's smoking a cigarette in Vegas, you typically don't smell that cigarette unless they're right on top of you.
All right, we've heard about Mundelein a few times. Has staff reached out to find what their village did?
Yeah.
Conditions or whatever?
We did, and staff actually, I didn't say this at the beginning, but staff had proposed 8 conditions. Some of them, or most of them, are just part of what was proposed by the applicant. But then we did receive more information from Mundelein, and 2 of the things that we would like the Plan Commission to think about adding is, I'll just tell you what those 2 things are, in addition to the 8, which I will read later, is limiting the consumption lounge to the area shown on this floor plan. That's what's in this tan area. So that's something that Mundelein did. And they also limited the special use so that it couldn't be transferred or assigned to anyone else.
Okay.
So those were things that we hadn't thought of, that if the Plan Commission wants to add those to the conditions that we had proposed, that's up to you guys.
And again, the first one she mentioned is kind of just a boots and suspenders, because usually the special use is kind of limited to the floor plan area, but since it's multiple businesses, it would just be more of a clarification standpoint, and the secondary one is also clarification as far as the use being to this owner-operator.
Any other information from Mundelein other than the conditions? I mean,
no, I think a lot of it was.
they were in the news
similar.
again today, by the way.
Oh.
We all were, I think. Mundelein was too, right?
Mundelein was in the news, yeah, because they want to have an outdoor concert with open smoking.
No, I think everything else was similar.
Okay. Anything else from the commission down at this end?
No. I have a question.
Sprague.
I'm shifting to the roof.
Okay.
The sign that you put up, I know we originally kind of agreed, we didn't make any kind of condition, but We talked about it not looking like a billboard sign. And when you're coming from the south, heading north, it does look like a billboard sign. I was wondering if you had any plans to maybe cover that out a little bit.
You mean the back of it?
Yeah, yeah. It's very visible from Milwaukee when you're heading north.
From the south coming north, I see what you're saying. I mean, the reality of it is we originally wanted to do a two-sided one.
Yeah, yeah.
And, you know, it came down to a financial thing. So I did not, I didn't look at it from that perspective as much as, I understand what you're saying.
Yeah.
What would you like me to do? I would love to have more signage. You know, what I'll tell you, if we're reminiscing back to the days of signage, one of the things I've learned by being there is that our parking lot, where, you know, our parking spaces are getting parked in by Twin Peaks, the hotel, we know that. And in my head, I said, we don't need signage on that side anyways. If they're parking in our lot, they're coming to us anyways. But the reality is, I'm sitting there and I'm thinking, you know, people actually don't know what we are if they park there. They're just parking where they can find a spot. So if I were going to sort of prioritize where I'd want signage, and I don't know what I have left in the I don't think you guys want to see me back out here for another sign. I would say that's probably where I would try to start. And if I were to try to do something on the back side of it, maybe it would be something more like brick, or it's just something to sort of hide the backing of it.
Yeah, just cover the framing, basically.
You know, I don't know what I have over there from an HVAC or structural, but you want to come there and come up on the roof with me, and I'll figure it out. I mean, I'll tell you.
Just a screening would work, some kind of screening.
I mean,
Well, if you end up with this new rooftop unit.
there will be another screen because it's going to have to block the DOAS. But yeah, I mean, the reality is one of the reasons we're here so soon for the consumption is, you know, it's not lines out the door. So, you know, we're not going anywhere. As the other guy said, with 10 million, we're into this for about 6.5. But, you know, as
No, I understand. It's just as long as maybe you have something in the future, keep that in mind to try and cover that up a little bit.
I'll make the promise to you, as soon as we get cash flow positive, that we'll figure out some way to make that look nicer.
It's fair.
And just don't want you to think that was ever my intention to try to pull one off anyone, because I do think the other side of the sign looks very nice. And I've gotten a lot of compliments. Mr. Johnson, I hope you just don't disagree.
It would look great on the side of the building instead of up in the air. Because the trees magically went away.
Yeah.
The trees that you said,
As
they're going
much
to
as I
block
would
the
have
sign.
loved to take credit for that, that was not me.
All of a sudden, the trees were gone and the sign is still way up in the air, so. Anyways.
Okay, sorry to shift off.
Now, offline, I could probably tell you who did that, but it was not me.
Any questions down at that end, guys?
Nope. No.
Anything else, Marcy?
No, just that we need to go over the conditions.
Yes. And we're going to add those too.
Yes.
Okay. Can we, in terms of the transfer, can we be more clear on that? Sorry, in terms of a transfer, if we were ever, you know, sell the business, for example, is that if CESAM isn't the same ownership, or if somebody buys CESAM? Those are questions I would have.
If someone buys CESAM, it's not a transfer. If you sell the business to someone else, like I own this dispensary and I'm selling it to a completely different company, then they would have to just get their own special use.
Understood.
It's not that the special use license just doesn't transfer to another owner. They would have to come through the process to just get their own one. But obviously there would be an existing one. But if you sell, if just ownership within your LLC changes, but you also then just like under a mortgage, you know, sometimes a bank assigns their mortgage, that's not okay either.
Okay. Yeah, I support.
All right.
All right.
Stand by. The first one's a big one.
Number 1, a report of the planned internal exhaust system from a qualified mechanical engineer for the Cannabis Consumption Lounge and a description of how all other areas of the building will be insulated from marijuana fumes shall be submitted. In addition, it shall be demonstrated that the consumption lounge will be served by an independent air supply and mechanical exhaust system that does not service any other internal areas of the building. Such report and demonstration must be submitted to the Community Development Department prior to any action of the Village Board. Upon the findings and acceptance of the report by the Community Development Department, if any modifications to the existing mechanical HVAC systems of the building are required, an application for building permits shall be submitted to the Community Development Department for review of any such work. No modifications to the existing building, including but not limited to the mechanical system, equipment, shall be conducted until the issuance of a building permit. All work shall be completed and successfully pass all required permit inspections before any use of the consumption lounge shall occur. Number 2, the sale and/or consumption of any alcohol in the consumption lounge is prohibited. Number 3, all food to be consumed within the consumption lounge shall not be prepared in the consumption lounge space, including any non-public areas. Number 4, cannabis-infused edibles and/or food products shall not be consumed in the consumption lounge. Number 5, all cannabis to be consumed at or within the consumption lounge shall be first purchased at the dispensary licensed at the subject site on the same day to which consumption will occur. Number 6, no paraphernalia or other smoking devices and/or aids shall be permitted to be used unless purchased directly from the dispensary licensed at the subject site. Number 7, there shall be no cannabis products offered, provided, or distributed as samples to be consumed within the consumption lounge or the licensed dispensary, including but not limited to any classes, demonstrations, sessions, or product presentations. Number 8, reservation shall be required for any person accessing the consumption lounge, excluding registered staff of the licensed dispensary, and said reservation shall not exceed a stay of 90 minutes with an additional 30-minute cool-down period. Private events with pre-registration may exceed the 90-minute time frame. Then the 2 new ones, the consumption lounge is limited to the area as shown on the floor plan prepared by Steep Architecture Studio dated 3/16/2023. That's the one on the screen. And number 10, the special use for the consumption lounge is limited to CESAM LLC, DBA OK Cannabis, and cannot be transferred or assigned to any successors.
Thank you. Any other last-minute questions regarding the conditions as stated? All right, in that case, I would entertain a motion on 2023-15.
So moved.
Second.
Berkey?
Meyer, Berkey? Commissioner Meyer?
Yes.
Commissioner Berkey?
Yes.
Commissioner Heiken?
Yes.
Commissioner Sprague is a yes. Commissioner Riles?
Yes.
Chairman Johnson?
I'm a no. Thank you.
Okay, oh, hold on. Okay, so per your request, you're going to go to the board on May 15th? Is that right? Okay. So I'm sure we'll talk before then.
Yeah, and you received the letter. We can file for building permits as soon as possible.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Thank you very much, everyone.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you, sir.
Close. Close.
Oh,
Yes,
yes,
close.
motion to close.
So moved.
Second.
Ms. Meyer, Riles? Commissioner Meyer?
Yes.
Commissioner Riles?
Yes.
Commissioner Heiken?
Yes.
Commissioner Berkey?
Yes.
Commissioner Sprague is a yes. Chairman Johnson?
Yes. Next up, we have approval of minutes of the regular meeting of March 22nd, 2023, including the finding of facts for dockets numbers 2023-06, 2023-07, 2023-08, 2023-09, 2023-10 and 2023-12. That was a busy night.
On a reading. So moved.
Motion to.
Second.
Good. Who was that?
Well, was that
Commissioner Sprague is a yes.
Sprague.
Sprague and Myers?
Meyer.
Commissioner Meyer.
Yes.
Commissioner Heiken.
Yes.
Commissioner Berkey.
Yes.
Commissioner Riles.
Yes.
Chairman Johnson.
Yes. Any other business? Ms. Nyes, anything going on?
No. Next meeting, we'll have another concept review, a different one. And
And there was a public hearing notice in the paper, I saw.
yes, Waggles has another special use they're looking for on Hintz. And maybe some other signs?
Back in the sign business.
Back in the sign business.
All right. Any other business? Commissioner Meyer?
None. Thank you.
Commissioner Riles?
No.
Commissioner
Thank you.
Sprague?
Nothing for me.
Commissioner Berkey?
Nothing from me, thank you.
And Commissioner Heiken?
Nothing.
All right. That concept is for the Milwaukee Dundee corner?
Yes.
Okay.
That was, yeah, just at the board.
What was the other place called that got a special use there? The spa?
Spa?
Oh, the Korean, like the.
What was
Yeah.
that called? I can't think.
I want to keep saying King Spa, but that was their other location.
Yeah.
That's the place.
Yeah, the old
Yeah.
Solex location,
The old Solex
Old
building.
Taylor Bank.
All right. If there's nothing else, a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Commissioner Meyer
And Berkey.
and Berkey. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We are adjourned.
8:20.